I want to welcome everybody to this gathering of poetry partners and guests from the Institute for Poetic Medicine. I'd like to share a little bit about the Institute and our vision for the work we do. The Institute for Poetic Medicine is dedicated to nurturing the human capacity to connect to self, other, community, the natural world, and to something more, the greater mystery, through the healing and expressive art of poetry and poem making. We recognize the unique and compelling role of poetry throughout history and across cultures to bring people into deeper levels of felt understanding. Through poetry, people can come into contact and build upon an interior self. This allows them for even more meaningful connection with others. Our programs engage individuals in reading, hearing, writing, and voicing poetry with an emphasis on drawing out personal meaning, imagination, truth-telling, and significance. Collaboration and capacity building are foundational principles of IPM in order to expand our reach and the accessibility of healing poetry. From a master's level certification in poetic medicine, through themed community workshops or training, peer facilitators at the community level seek to empower a growing number of people employing poetry in the service of their own and others' transformation. Our program takes place throughout the community, at hospitals, community centers, churches, schools, workplaces, and homes. Our Poetry Partner program identifies and supports individuals who demonstrate the capacity to inspire and help transform the lives of others through their own lived experience of the positive role of poetry. Today, you'll be hearing from 5 of our poetry partners. You'll hear about the specific applications they are making, and I'll introduce them in a moment. But right now, I want to introduce our guests. I'm happy to have 3 guests with us for this event. They've gladly agreed to listen to the sharing of our poetry partners. They're not only listeners, as important as that is in the path of living this life, and particularly in the practice of poetic medicine. Our guests will respond to what they hear. Their responses will evoke responses and reflection. This interactive process is essential in the practice of poetry therapy. I see their inclusion here as standing in for you who is listening to this recording. I'd like to say a little bit about each guest and ask them to speak. So first, Kim Spangenburg. Kim is the Chief Executive Officer at DAISY, which stands for Domestic Abuse and Sexual Assault Intervention Services. She has served as an addiction counselor, managed a shelter for DV/SV victims in need of a safe place to live away from their abusers. So I'm going to ask Kim to say a little bit about herself.
Thanks, John. I'm so excited about being here this evening with all of you. I have worked with victims for over 30 years. I'm a single mom. I am a fierce advocate for women's and children's issues. I'm a co-chair of the board of Parent to Parent in Warren County, which is an organization that assists those with substance use issues in their families. I volunteer for a thoroughbred horse rescue, and I love my family and dogs. I'm not an expert at all in poetry. In fact, my knowledge until recently was limited to what I had learned in high school. And it wasn't until meeting Jim and getting to know the Daisy Rise Up poets that my appreciation for poetry as a healer of trauma was actually realized. So now I'm an advocate for poetry as well as other creative modalities such as art and drama and yoga for the treatment of trauma. So I thank you for allowing me to be here tonight.
You're welcome. And I'm so glad you wanted to be here. So now I'll introduce Sharon Lowe. Sharon is an attorney, and she has an MA in pastoral ministry. She is a recent graduate of the 8-week Poetry as a Tool for Wellness peer facilitator course coordinated by Kathy Capers, MA. And Sharon previously served as the executive director of the Austin Clubhouse, where PTW, or Poetry as a Tool for Wellness, was developed. Sharon and her family moved to Austin from Boston in 1993. She grew up in Richmond, Virginia, where she developed lifelong passions for inclusive communities, social justice, education, arts, nature, and spirit. So Sharon, would you like to say a little bit?
I would love to. Thank you. I've loved poetry for as long as I can remember, at least from 3rd or 4th grade, when my teacher told my mother that after she had seen some of my poetry that I was writing then, that I was definitely college material. And my mother was so pleased because my mother was first generation high school. And so she held up some hope that I would make it to college, which I did. And I retired from Austin Clubhouse in October of 2022 after more than 30 years working in nonprofits, government, and high tech as an attorney and as a lay pastoral person and just a nonprofit leader. And I loved it all. I see it all as being about advocacy, much like Kim just said. When I left, I felt ambivalent about the idea of retirement when I left Austin Clubhouse. And I was quickly approached by Kathy and Kristen and Athena about taking the Poetry as a Tool for Wellness class. And I'm so glad that I did that. I had the opportunity to witness the power of poetry writing and reading at Austin Clubhouse on Thursday nights, every third Thursday night for 2 years at least. And it made a big difference in the lives of adults living with mental health disorders. So, so glad to be part of this. It's contributed to my post-retirement healing and adjustment.
Sharon, thank you so much. And I'm going to thank you for being so welcoming to Kathy and Athena and Kristen and Martha Ward, the late Martha Ward, at the clubhouse, because that helped provide fertile ground for their work to grow. And that kind of relationship and collaboration is really essential. So thank you.
Thank you.
And now I want to turn to Athena McClendon. She lives in Austin, Texas. She is an advocate for mental health awareness and support services. She is a practitioner of mindfulness and the burgeoning area of self-care. She has been connected to the Institute for Poetic Medicine through Poetry as a Tool for Wellness for 7 years. She is a facilitator trainer for that program. She laughs out loud. Joy is her default setting, and she lives in words. So Athena, please.
Thank you, John. Thank you for that introduction. It's so good to be here. And as a part of my testimony, I'm glad to be here because a few years ago, I wanted to die. I was so overwhelmed with my health challenges, and they manifested in very precarious ways, but I didn't have any connection to my family, or I didn't have a life partner, and I just didn't want to be here anymore. And I didn't want to be a burden to my friends that I did have because they lived so far away. They couldn't really support me. The only things that kept me visible were my doctor's appointments, my counseling appointments, and going to the Austin Clubhouse. And it was during that time that I recognized that I needed community more than anything. And Poetry as a Tool for Wellness saved my life. You know, I don't know where I would be today without it. And it was through the mentorship with Kathy Capers that I learned to trust the script that we were using. I learned to trust the process of just being healed and helping others. And today I serve on the board of the Austin Clubhouse, and I'm currently employed with Foundation Communities, and I'm continuing my rabbinical training. I'm training to be a rabbi, and I have a small internet digital business that I create graphics and help support people with their nonprofits, small nonprofits, and I'm just so grateful today to be here healing and on this journey with everyone here through poetry. Thank you.
Thank you. I mentioned that we have poetry partners, and I'm going to turn this over to each of our poetry partners. And We'll begin with Jim Elsaesser.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, John. Just delighted to be here, be a part of this wonderful community. So the question was to share briefly how poetry and poem making has changed my life, saved my life. And Sharon, while you were speaking about being in third or fourth grade, a story resonated with me. Like I heard John ask once when poetry first came to you. I thought, what an interesting way to put it. But it just leaped into my mind so unexpectedly. I remember being in like fourth grade in a very rural school and seeing a poem on the left side of a book. And on the right side, on the right page, was a black and white photograph of some birch trees in a mist. And I remember the poem was red and I didn't quite get it, but I remember looking at that photograph and just having a profound sense of a mystery. And I didn't know what it was, but I knew for certain I wanted more. And that's really kind of been my connection, the genesis of this expression of life that is with us wherever we are and has been with me throughout my life. I could say it has saved my life in many ways in terms of expression myself in ways I could never before. I grew up with violence and domestic violence situation, the full circle of coming back to this, and at that time being unaware of what it was, right? But also just that deep, almost unspoken understanding of something beautiful and magnificent waiting for us on a page.
Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome.
Hi, Meredith.
I would say that poetry found me when I was a young teenager, about 12 years old, beginning to strike out into the world on my own. I left home when I was 13, lived on my own in the woods along the Potomac River outside of Washington, D.C., and lived in abandoned houses along the river, domes I built in the woods, and had a very hard time in school, and I had gotten pretty much what I needed from my family, and I knew that there were other things I needed to learn and develop in myself, and I didn't know other options. So I went to where I feel most at home, which is nature. Nature became my family, and writing was really my home and my companion. And it's how I sorted my feelings, sorted my thoughts, made sense of depression and isolation and abandonment and the big existential questions that began to open for me around 12 years old. Who am I? Why am I here? What do I have to offer? I had this deeper understanding that we're all the same in terms of our need to love and be loved and share who we are. And within that, we're all unique about how we do that and why and where it comes from in ourselves. So it was a lot for me to sit with, and I wrote this book, Write a Poem, Save Your Life, which is how John found me. And so this is about how poetry writing saved my life and how it attuned me to my mission to bring this incredible doorway to others. This was my first book that just came out in 2021, and I just wrote my second book called Writing by Heart. So this basically documents all the work I've done over the past 30 years with teens, and that was my real area of focus because that was my wound, my doorway, my sacred wound, which is my opening, and I wanted to get to those teens. So my next book, writing by heart that John has written a gorgeous foreword for, will be published by the same publisher, New World Library, and will be out February 2024. And this book documents the work I've done since COVID with women all over the world, which is my new community after working with kids for 30 years. And I love them and I could play with them all day, but working with women, wow, I have found my joy.
We're looking forward. Wayne Gilbert.
Hey, well, I'm not going to tell my whole poetry story. I'm going to tell my poetry story about how I got involved in this work and doing this kind of thing. 2005, I was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. And the first thing I did was go home and write a poem. This is the poem. It's called Toxic Psalm. This poison inside me, blessed to go off before, that's all, folks. My body unloads its chemistry, peels off its neuro attention before my brain can lock and load. This is my body unplugged. Unraveled synaptic vines spilling, sprawled, unsortably unwired. This charged chemistry is failing, beginning to solo. Here's how a body makes up its own mind. Here's how a body decides for itself. Here's how a body takes over its own story. No one called Crime Stoppers. No one was worried I was a genetic suicide bomb. This body has a hole punctured in its ozone. This body has a hole punctured in its ozone. This body's experiencing ice cap meltdown. This body has toasted magnetic codes. This body is a flashlight whose battery is dying in the darkest post-glacial night. This body is about to be sealed off from me. When I go back now to this poem and I use it in workshops and other groups of people with Parkinson's, I often use this poem because I see a person struggling to find an answer to two questions. One is, what is happening to me? And the other is, what does it mean? And I think the way those questions are answered is always primarily through metaphors. And in this poem, I could see that me then really struggling to find the metaphors that would help me understand what was happening to me and then figure out what it meant. And ever since then, I've tried to be involved in helping others explore more meaningful metaphors to help them figure out what's happening to them and what it means.
Wayne, thank you.
Hey, I'm Tonia, and I'm here with Samantha. We're in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I don't know about you, but I feel like a baby in this group. Like not because I'm young, but because I feel so fresh and new in this world of poetry. When poetry found me or rediscovered me when I met John in Mepkin Abbey, South Carolina, with monks, and John was leading a workshop on Epiphany. Poetry as Epiphany. And I loved it so much that I went back for a second time to hang out with the monks in Mepkin Abbey with John to learn about writing your relationship with trees. And I didn't like poetry when I was young. I didn't understand it. I couldn't figure out how to write it. I had always been a very literal person. I worked in television news for 20 years. And so poetry was very mysterious and very inaccessible to me. And when I tried to write it, I just felt, well, perfectionism kicked in and I didn't feel like I could do it. But working with John helped me to understand a whole different level of what poetry is, and how poetry as a tool for healing, doesn't matter how the words come out. If they come from you, they're real and true and meaningful. And so he has been instrumental, and this institute has been instrumental in helping me to own myself as a writer and as a human being. And I couldn't be more grateful and thankful. That's on a personal level. And I think in a little while, we'll get to tell you a little bit more about what we've been getting to do through the Institute.
And I'm Samantha Overbay, and I love like the ripples that John impacted Tonia, and then Tonia impacted me, and then we've been able to continue to do work together. During the 2020 shutdown, Tonia led her first Embracing Uncertainty, and I was able to be a participant then. And I was just so struck by using poetry to help process things. So when you're trying to maybe progress through things or push past something, I really found poetry as a tool to help you with that. So I wrote something. Tonia recently was like, we should write a poem about doorknobs. And so this is what came up. I know.
About what? About what?
Doorknobs.
Oh.
So, but this is what came up, and this is how I see poetry. Have you ever noticed that exterior doors don't open out? To enter into the great unknown, the door must swing in. Control a barrier by countering the urge to push away. Squeeze the doorknob to pull towards yourself. Growth out begins in. And for me, that's what poetry is. It's a way of wanting to push past something, to move on, to progress forward, but really first taking a moment to bring it in, to pull it in.
So,
and that's what poetry has been for me.
thank you so much. Thanks to everyone. Now, I'm going to turn towards, we'll start with Tonia and Samantha, and they'll share about their work with Embracing Uncertainty.
Embracing Uncertainty came about because we started doing poetry during COVID. And we had already gotten the go-ahead from the Institute for Poetic Medicine to do our workshops, but then we had to figure out how to do them on Zoom. And of course, during that time, we can remember just how terrifying it was at times, just not knowing what was going to happen next. And there was a lot of fear in the beginning of COVID. And we engaged with a nonprofit called The Sandbox, which was a group of, turned out to be all ladies, although I know there are more than just ladies in that nonprofit organization, but it was ladies who were mothers or sisters or aunts or uncles or grandparents of children who had either lost their lives or had chronic illness. And so they were dealing with a lot of grief, a lot of stuck grief. And we engaged with John's book, his books and his work. And we just dove in, trusting the process of poetry would lead us to where we needed to go. And it was beautiful, and it was mystical, and we didn't even think it would really work on Zoom, but of course it did. And what was so much fun, and the thing that I of course love the most about what we get to do is that it's not, so we were engaging with people in different levels of crisis, but we were also people in different levels of crisis. You know, there was no us and them about it. We were all the people engaging in the process of poem making to try to help us understand what was happening in our world and in our own lives. And we, gosh, that was also the time that some of the racial unrest started happening. And John, I'm sure you remember the phone call that we called you and we said, John, we have no precedent for this. And we don't know what to do, but we have people in our cohort that are African-American, and I know they're hurting, and I don't know what to do. So can you help us walk through that? And it gives me shivers to think about it now, because we were able to come alongside people that were hurting and find a level of being seen and heard and understood. And there's such safety in poetry because you can contain it, right? You can, it's not like the emotions are going to go on and on. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it feels like a safe way to share. And so there was some really beautiful sharing during that time, for sure. I have just a couple of poems of my own, super short poems, which I noticed today. John, thank you for allowing us to kind of reflect on where we've been, where we've come. And, you know, during this time, I was going through a separation from my spouse. And so I was processing a lot of that. And I noticed that in one of our first booklets, we have 4 of them now, Embracing Uncertainty booklets that the Institute has helped us to produce. We have 4 volumes of original poetry. And I was just noticing that longing was a consistent theme for me, that I knew that there was longing and pain that I needed to process. And so I have these 2 poems that show some of the growth that I experienced during the time. The first one is Longing. I remember the way you looked at me, with desire, with love, with fear. There was always this discomfort, like you couldn't really accept me, or was it yourself? I realize now these insecurities came from harsh words and abuse. I wish you hadn't passed all that down to me. The broken desire, the imperfect love, the constant fear. I know you were always doing your best. I remember the way you looked at me. And I'm going to only read that one because I just remembered as I was reading it that I actually wrote that poem about my mother. And then when I read it to myself later on, it reflected back to me the relationship I had with my spouse and how I had went and sought the very same person and got married to that very same person. And though it feels sad and tragic when I say it, it's actually, I'm grateful for that knowing and that understanding that I would never have come to had I not written those words.
So then in other sessions, we were also able to go in and work with Hope Haven here in Charlotte, and that's a residential recovery housing, like the center. So, so we were able to work with friends that were moving out of addiction and then into recovery, and they were kind of sitting in that uncertainty as well. And we've also been able to work with Running Works, which is a nonprofit that works with unhoused populations here in Charlotte, kind of helping to intertwine physical activity and giving shoes and going on runs and life skills, all sorts of things. And so we were able to come in and bring poetry as a life skill. And then the most recent, we've been able to go into Dove's Nest, which is another recovery center, but this was all women.
All women,
and so one of my favorite stories was from Hope Haven. So it was from our volume 2 book. And it was with Michael. And so Michael was a large man, and he had a large personality. And he would sit and write and very rarely share with the group. And this was one of the only poems that Michael actually trusted us to be able to include in our anthology. And it's just one of my favorites because I feel like it's a beautiful example of that moment when we're sitting in the circle and someone writes something and then they have the brave moment to share it. And they're able to say, like, I didn't know that was in there. And you feel like something has opened or broken free. And so this is Michael's poem, and it's Jam, Cram, Dam. Stuff my emotions, you don't cry. The pipe will hold it in. Put the relief valve, will automatically erupt. The tank is full. No, it's not. It'll hold a little more. Damn, it's spilling out onto the floor. What a mess is all for to see. And it was a beautiful moment because that's how his whole being was, is that the relief valve had burst and his emotions had come out. And he looked relieved. He looked relieved. He was a little embarrassed by the mess, but also relieved. And it was a beautiful moment for all of us
Yeah.
to acknowledge his bravery, to hold it dear. And it was just a beautiful moment in the circle of sharing.
Yeah, I think what was interesting too is when you sit in these circles with people, how quickly trust is built. And then especially because the way that John has taught us to share our poetry and to hold our poetry, we don't give feedback. We just listen and we let the words just be what they are. And then we might share, I'm sorry, I guess we do give some feedback, but not the kind of feedback that you normally do in like a normal group. You just share back a line or two that spoke to you. And then if the poet wants to share more and wants to hear more, that's great. But if they don't want to, we just let the poem be what it is. And there grew to be so much trust with Michael in particular, who was the most closed off in the beginning.
Yes.
That he told us about abuse that he suffered from his dad. He told us and wrote about, but didn't share in our anthology, wrote about really hard things. And then at the end, he wanted to be able to teach others as he continued in the program. And so we were really grateful to see how it could multiply and continue on. And we've been to Hope Haven twice now, and they actually are continuing to do the work there through an intern that was in our second round of poem making there. So that was really powerful and exciting to see that, well, it's not about us. It's not about us as the facilitators. It's not about us. It is about the work and people. But I don't know. When I say it's about us, I want to say too that it is about us also, right? Like we learn to own ourselves, and that helps people to own themselves as well.
Is it true to say it's not only about you?
Yeah, that's more accurate. Yeah, for sure.
And I wonder, like trust, like to me, and this is actually a fresh thought, is like trust is built by doing less and being more, perhaps. But does that feel accurate to you?
Yeah, doing less and being more. See, that's what's so interesting. Samantha and I have both been very much doers most of our lives. We were engaged, we've known each other for 10 years, 11, I guess now, right? And we started out working together in outreach programs at our church. So we were very much doers, very much crushing tasks all over town and being moms and doing all the things. And yes, poetry has allowed us to be still and appreciate silence and give us time to let things bubble up. So we're very grateful to you, John, and we're really grateful to the people who have given to the Institute for Poetic Medicine and those who will be new givers in the engaging of the work that we're doing, because when you participate in this work, it goes far beyond anything we could do on our own.
We have a few more minutes here, and I'm wondering, like, what's new? Is there something on the horizon for embracing uncertainty?
Well, we have a lot of ideas and asks, and we haven't solidified anything at this point. We really want to do some work with children, and so we've gone to a couple of schools, private schools that have populations that have poverty as a connector or addiction as a connector. So we've done that. We have sort of an open invitation at Hope Haven. They would like us to come back whenever we are willing to do so. And I'm currently working with a nonprofit for people who are facing unplanned pregnancies. And so I'm interested in seeing about processing those kinds of issues, reproductive issues with men and women. I think that could be really beautiful and powerful. So yeah, we want to continue, John.
Well, we want you to continue too. Samantha and Tonia, thank you so much. Wayne Gilbert is our next poetry partner presenter with Metaphor, Medicine, and I don't know if he plans to say anything about this, but for 4 years, we funded Wayne in his Unlocked Poetry program at Sterling Correctional Facility, maximum security prison in Northeast Colorado.
I'm going to focus mainly on poetry and talk very little about what I do or what the program's about, and hope the poems kind of speak for themselves. I want to talk first or share first from this book, Unlocked Poetry. It's called With Professor Wayne A. Gilbert and the Lyrical Vagabonds. This was a book that the residents at the prison, the poets, put together after I was gone. And I knew nothing about it until one came to me. And it's wonderful. These are all poems that were written during the 4.5 years that I went up to Sterling. And I wanted to choose one from that, and then tell you more about what I'm doing currently. So this is a poem called A Flower in the Burn Scar. One very short explanatory note. I live in Colorado, in Denver, and in the mountains of Colorado in recent years, many of you might know we've had some very serious forest fires. One of the earliest fires is referred to in this poem. And if you can imagine, in this burn scar, there is the remains of a deer. A flower in the burn scar. I see you peeking timidly from between the skeletal bars of your bleached, bony fortress. Vibrant colors, a sign of defiance in this scorched grayscape. I hear your silent exclamation of resurgence and rebirth. Your seed burrowed deep as the buck sheltered you from the raging furnace fire. He must have been fearless, offering himself as sanctuary to your unborn, fragile beauty in the face of nature's fury. He nourishes you still, I think. His essence feeds your tiny roots as his spirit rises in your petals and radiates from your golden eye. His iron will lives within you, reflecting in your bright bloom, reaching up towards the sun. I wonder what you see from your apocalyptic high ground, up among the blackened stumps, baked cinders and ash. The charred hillside gives nothing, but perhaps you look towards what will follow as you grow. This barren charnel floor will be healed someday. The mother will make it so. She bestows her healing powers as part of a grand design that always lives on. You are the hope she sends. Think that image of a flower growing inside the rib cage of a deer on this burn scar, as he calls it, is a perfect metaphor for this work, for metaphor medicine, poetic medicine, everything we've heard. And Jam Cram Dam, Michael, made me think of those guys. So many of the men I met in Sterling Correctional Facility, some of whom have become among my best of friends, and I'm still in contact with. But I want to switch now to my current work, which is people with Parkinson's, like myself. And at the beginning of the pandemic, I felt like I needed something else. The Unlocked Poetry had been over for a little while, and I felt isolated, of course, as we all were, especially in those early months. And with the support of the Davis Finney Foundation and soon the Institute of Poetic Medicine, I started what I now call Metaphor Medicine. And I have 2 groups now that meet monthly. and on Zoom. And we are from all over the United States and Canada. The groups are small, 10 or 11 each, so that we can keep the sharing freer, if you will. So I want to share two of the most recent poems, actually, from last week. I sent them the poem Wonder Woman by Ada Limon, current poet laureate of the United States. And she wrote a poem called Wonder Woman. And I sent that poem out to them and invited them to write about a superpower, either of their own or of someone in their life. And these are two of the results. This first one is called Wanted, a Superhero by Joe Van Coverden. Wanted, a strong superhero to help a 5-year-old boy. I need a friend today, if possible, before my brothers tease me again about being fat and stupid. Please hurry. They are walking up now. Cancel the above ad for superhero. Solved problem myself. I'm 12 now. I let my anger rule the day, and they promise not to tease me anymore. Mom said they both will recover from the fight in a day or two. Wanted, a smart superhero to tutor a teenage boy on social skills. Older siblings are struggling with their own chaotic lives, and my parents aren't much help. Cancel the ad for the superhero. Found alcohol this summer, hanging out with my new buddies. All was going well till the border run to stock up on Sunday with beer. Parents bailed me out in the morning. He's in Canada. Wanted, a wise superhero to advise on life choices like career, marriage, etc. Moving kind of fast on choices, need expert input for best results or negotiating skill to retract contracts. Cancel the ad. Too late for input. Marriage ending, selling house. She took the car and the kids, leaving job, jumped into new one in Toronto, one job of many during the next few years. Wanted, a compassionate superhero to help get to retirement safely. Must be able to deal with chronic conditions like cancer and Parkinson's disease. Need reply soon, already 60 years old. Cancel the ad, got it covered. Glenn and Tom will do the finances. Others lined up for my medical team. Wife helps fill in on many things. I think I'll be okay without a superhero. Others must have needed you more. Most of these poets had never written a poem in their lives, never even considered reading a poem in their lives. But they'd seen me read poems. I have over 350 poems I've written about Parkinson's. I write about other things too, and they'd seen me at various occasions and online for the Davis Finney Foundation, and I volunteered to start a group, and several people responded. Each group is they made a commitment, so they're closed groups now, and everyone comes every month.
Wow.
I've asked several, this last month, I said, well, we've been going for almost 4 years, is it? I don't know. Several years now. And maybe it's time to, but before I could finish the sentence, everyone on Zoom, you know how well this works, like started to say, no, let's go. So it's a support community. It's a group of people who don't have to explain who they are and where they come from and what's going on with them, and we can focus on ourselves and each other and share so freely and without judgment in a warm environment like this one, which to me is counterintuitive. As Samantha and Tonia kind of referred to it in their presentation too, this does not seem like a warm environment, but I can promise you, to this day, actually, as an older person with Parkinson's myself, I don't go out much. My social life, my artistic community is I'd say 2/3 right here. So it's a powerful tool we knew about beforehand, but we didn't know it. We didn't really know a damn thing until we needed to use it. I want to read one more poem,
Sure.
a superpowered poem.
Okay.
I can't help it. Whenever I hear Wonder Woman, I think of the dun 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 dun. I don't know. Is that the Wonder Woman theme song? I think so. The old Wonder Woman theme song by Sidney Donahue. This poem is called Her, the pronoun her. Wonder Woman, small girl scampering over rocks, doing flips down the tumbling mat, being a friend. She is so agile, so innocent, so unaware. She grows up, life is good, and life is not so good. She forgets the Wonder Woman of her youth. Life just happens, kids and jobs and house, so many distractions, the busyness of life. But there are glimpses, times where all the stars align. Summer, the Lion King, and parades, hiking, skiing, a master's degree, conquering deceit, new love. But where's Wonder Woman? She can't see it, not now. Life happens. PD happens. She's starting to recognize her Wonder Woman. Oh, Wonder Woman's on fire. She takes PD and lassos it. Living well, she recognizes her Wonder Woman. But the ebb and flow catches up again. PD is knocking loudly and fiercely. That bastard wants it all. But it's different now. With time and age comes wisdom. She wants her back, Wonder Woman. So she puts on her cape, walks out the door, and what we discover, or what discovers us in poetry, doesn't finish the work, so to speak. Because Parkinson's disease is, one never knows from day to day the way things are going to be. Symptoms arise, different symptoms arise the next day. By afternoon, something has changed again, and there's just this constant disequilibrium around what the heck is happening to me and what does it mean. So I love in that particular poem how Wonder Woman, it like comes and goes and comes and goes and comes and goes. She doesn't move in and stay. And that's kind of life. And I love how both those poets did entire autobiography in a poem. They told their whole life stories right there. I thought that was quite remarkable. It's amazing, beyond amazing. I keep saying to my wife, periodically, I say, I think I can't do this anymore. It's just too hard. And she says, oh, shut up. Just do it. Because you know, every time after a session, you are like dancing around here and flying higher than a kite. And she's right. It's absolutely true that while I think what we do together is very valuable for everyone, I will be the first to say I benefit from it, I think probably more than anyone else does, because I see so many, and they get to see each other too in this way, like finding the answer to those questions. You know, what's happening to me and what does it mean? What can I do? How does this feel? I don't know. I want to know. I need to learn. How can I live with this? How can I live well with this?
So there's so much room for questions.
Always. Funny you say that, because his whole poem is questions. Why do people harm themselves? Why? Why do we persist hurting ourselves? Why do we ask these stupid questions? Why is there fear? Why must there be loss? Blah, blah, blah. Like a whole page of questions. Yeah. And then the last line of the poem is, I don't know why, but maybe asking questions is my superpower. Oh, sweet.
You mentioned briefly that you have done this work through Davis Finney. which is a Parkinson's organization. And
Yes.
I'm wondering if you could talk just, what has that relationship been like with Davis Phinney?
The foundation is an international advocacy and educational group that started because there were lots of groups, Michael J. Fox for the most famously, doing research on cures, and there was nobody 25 years ago when they started this foundation who was working on, well, how do we live with it? As opposed to find the cure. So their philosophy is very consistent with what I wanted to do and what I see this work to be about, which is finding the spaces in the difficulties and the pain and the unbearable suffering for living well, whatever that space, wherever that space might be. So they asked me to read some poems at a couple of different occasions, and that got me sort of connected with them. And then people began to contact me and asking me to review their poems. You know, if anybody ever hears you read a poem, there's always going to be somebody who will like send you one. What do you think of this? Is this any good? I've never written poems before, and then it just I started the group because they have ambassadors, and ambassadors are people with Parkinson's who receive a little special training, and they're scattered all over the country and Canada, and increasingly in a few other places in Europe and Africa, I believe. And those people help our local resources for people with Parkinson's, and can be connections.
You brought this two ambassadors.
I did first, yes. And the second group came after we did a poetry cafe online, and 75 people came to the first one, and 55 came to the second one. And a whole bunch of people said, we want in. And I was like, well, I don't have room. And the foundation education director said, would you consider starting another group? And I did. So that's kind of how it came from. And they've sponsored a page of my own, of videos of my own work, poems about performing, about having Parkinson's, and those are available on the Davis Phinney website.
Thank you, my friend.
You bet.
So I'm so glad to have heard from Wayne with Metaphor Medicine, and from Samantha and Tonia in Embracing Uncertainty. And I'd like to invite our guests to interact with our poetry partners, to interact with themselves, to share what has resonated for them, or perhaps they have a question, whatever they'd like to do. But I'm wanting now to take some time to let them speak. So Sharon or Kim or Athena, please.
I'm happy to go first. First, what I would like to say is I did take so many notes listening to all of you about things that I was feeling and about different themes that I noticed. One of the things that really touched me was when, Wayne, you read the poem from The Gentleman from Prison. And as you read it back, it was so visual for me, what you were reading. And, you know, of course, I don't know the circumstance of that person, but I just wanted to share what it was that brought to my mind, which was that flower, perhaps being a child or someone that he loved, that he had to leave behind while in prison. And the fact that that flower was blooming from the rib cage of the dead deer made me think of perhaps, you know, what he had done or who he was being the deer. And perhaps even what he done was something that was protective of that person that he loved, even if maybe it had brought him to prison. So to me, it was a kind of beautiful picture, maybe of sacrifice, so that the next generation of his family could flourish and live. So that's what I saw in that poem. And I just thank you for it. The other thing I would like to point out is, Samantha, when you read the poem, oh my gosh, it really made me feel reminiscent of what we may have potentially heard a decide participant, and a decide participant for Daisy is someone who has used abuse or coercive control in their life, but is in the process of taking responsibility for that and wanting to change. And when you read that poem, I could really picture it being one of the men in that program writing that poem. So the fact that I made up little stories as you were reading the poetry really helped me to realize that not only can the poetry be very healing for the person who wrote it, but that the listener uses their own filters and their own experiences to also experience that poem. So there can be that healing that happens even by the reader, because we can relate to what is being said. And just, just some of the beautiful things that I thought all of you mentioned were poetry is really about using all the senses. It's not just about writing. One of you said, and I don't know who, but there was the reflection of self of what you learn when you actually read your poem back. So I think it was you, Tonia, who said, when you write the poem, you may have one meaning, but you might not really understand the true or the layered meaning until you read it back for yourself. I thought that was so beautiful. Just poetry being home, poetry being a companion, like, wow, that's really powerful as well. So coming to this experience as someone who is just learning to experience poetry, and it's really been through the work that Jim has done, this evening just really meant a lot to me and really touched me in a way that I'm just very surprised at how deep and powerful it was. So thank you.
And thank you, Kim. And if Tonia or Samantha or Wayne want to respond to Kim, I want to say there's room for that.
Thank you for your feedback. I think it's just wonderful to be in a community like this where we can hear different things and learn and grow together. So thank you for your feedback. Really appreciate that. I really appreciate too that it doesn't end here, right? Like you said, when other people hear the poems, it touches them in a completely different way sometimes. And I just think that's really beautiful. And it just shows the power of the healing potential of the poetry.
I'll just add that if a metaphor is rich enough, then there isn't a single experience contained in it or expressed in it. It has multiple ways of being understood and interpreted in exactly the ways you indicated, Kim. Yeah.
Athena.
I have a question right now, not so much a comment. I'm gonna try to keep myself contained in a small little sliver. But I do have a question for Tonia and Samantha. When you mentioned your work during the racial unrest and upheaval, that you had cohorts who were BIPOC or people of color or Black folks, right? So I was wondering if you guys developed any curriculum or had any things that you used to help bring out that process for those cohorts.
Some of what we worked on was just the poems that we chose as prompts.
Yeah.
And I was really intent to make sure that our poets had diversity, that they weren't all white men. And so some of what we did is we made sure that there was
representation of all
yes.
the voices
Yes.
that we could share. What we wanted to do was begin to dive deeper into different voices and sharing different perspectives, and then offering everyone the opportunity to write and reflect So it was fun. I was grateful, but it was fun because at first it just seemed scary, and I was really grateful for the opportunity.
Thank you, Athena. And Sharon, I'm going to ask Meredith to begin her session but we'll be coming back to asking questions and reflecting and things like that. So thank you for this, passage. Meredith, would you like to let us know about Heartbeat Poetry?
I would love to. I'd like to start a little before Heartbeat. I'd like to start with Roots and Wings. And this is an anthology. I think this is the first anthology I did when I started receiving funding from IPM for 3 different courses I was teaching. One is my own private workshops for women now all over the world. 2, women in prison, incarcerated women. And the third area is the teens that I work with. And I've focused a lot with at-risk teens. I've worked in juvenile detention centers, lots of teen girls going through everything from identity to sexuality to how do I navigate this world as a young woman, a young person. So Roots and Wings was a whole program we taught, and taking your lead, Wayne, your whole piece was so beautifully orchestrated. I learned so much from you. Thank you. I'd love to share a couple pieces out of this anthology, Roots and Wings, Rite of Passage. So this piece is called My First Language, and it's about getting in touch with the deep ways that we communicate before we had language. How do we know ourselves and express ourselves? How do we reach out to the world to ask for what we need before we even had language? And what does it feel like then to have language? So this first piece, My First Language, by one of the women inmates, by Amber S. My first language was hope. Hope in a future that seemed bright and not so distant, looking forward to tomorrow. My first language was home. Family together for holidays, my mother and uncle cooking, grace before we ate. My first language was the country, the open fields, the smell of freshly mowed grass and farming, the peace I find there. My first language was being on a horse, the way we moved as one, the harmony and rhythm while riding. Nothing else can compare. My first language was love. Having someone who loved me unconditionally, knowing they are a part of me forever. My first language was family. No matter where I am or the mistakes I've made, no matter if I reach my goals or not, they love me. My first language. Yeah, what really moved me and transformed me in working with the women inmates was their honesty, their capacity to own what they had done, what had landed them in prison, and their willingness to learn a new way of being. Sometimes because of how much they had lost by being locked up, family, time with children, their spouses, the world, and realizing being able to rein in for themselves the gift that life is. And the honesty with which they face themselves, just so incredibly sobering and empowering. I'd like to read you another piece. Yeah. We worked with colors and how they feed us, like a food, like a vitamin, colors, how they connect us to life. Why? Why, we ask? One of the great questions for your list, Wayne, your question asker, the superpower of why. So this is by another women inmate, Lori G. Green. I love green, all shades. Olive, neon, blue, green, lime, paddy, forest, even seafoam. My dad loved green. His guitar playing, waltzing through the leaves, dancing in the wind. He was buried in a green casket. Green is the color of forests, all the moss twisting in every shade around and around. Trenton loved green. Mom, can I buy all green socks? Incredible Hulk lying on the floor, Ninja Turtle comforter balled up at the end. Green is life. Green is healing. Green is I love you. Grass dancer, so proud praying, flattening the grass for the dancers, shimmering ribbons of greens, head down, shoulders swaying, feet going to the drum. Green, green, green. So next we did a heartbeat series and we made this anthology. And this is a great, it's one of my favorite workshops. One of the things I love so much about this series is it's very somatic. I love working with body. It's very alive and very present and very like felt experience. What is here now? When we're spinning out on something, a thought, a feeling, to ground into body, for me is one of the things I've really learned brings me home. And so I invite this for my workshop participants. So with Heartbeat series, we actually palpate our actual heartbeat right over our heart. Sometimes it's easier for people to feel in the center of the chest. Sometimes I'll have people lie on the floor on their left side and feel the reflection against the floor of your heart beating. And if none of those work, you can grab a pulse point. So we work with the actual heartbeat to learn the language of how our heart responds to us about truth. Am I telling myself the truth? And my heartbeat will actually shift texture or rhythm when I tell myself an untruth versus when I tell myself a truth. So I want to share with you a poem. Oops, I just lost it. Let me find it again. Oh, here it is. This is one that John really liked too. Soft Heart by Kat Thompson. My heart knows when I'm here, when I'm not. She hardens when hurt, like a jumbled ball of coarse yarn. But why so tough? Can't she be strong and also soft? Loosen her grip, re-spin herself smooth as silk. My heart knows when I show up fully, I am a beating force of love. And when I forget, I will lay my hand across my chest. I will sprint down the trail, feeling her pump, not to run away, but to move this river of blood. And then my heart says to me in her own language, soften, soften. So we're doing Heartbeat now. And what else? So much really great stuff in Write a Poem, Save Your Life. So many rich, rich poems of change and acceptance and yeah, I think that's it. Acceptance and change and acceptance.
Oh, wow.
And this, it must be like the particle in the wave, this ongoing metamorphosis that we keep inhabiting as we get here with ourselves and with each other more and shed the layers that keep us from ourselves and keep us from each other. And I think poetry is one of these connecting forces.
Thank you. I mean, there's so much more that we could say and share, and I'm going to ask Jim now to share.
I am just deeply touched by everything everybody shared here today. In so many words, one of the things I love to do in workshops is like catch something somebody says and say, hey, write that down. And I'm scribbling away here because we've written so many poems in our time together, right? So many gorgeous moments, so many beautiful moments and touching, that I'm deeply moved by this. Yeah. I want to start with a poem that was left on a voicemail of a co-facilitator, actually the first co-facilitator I worked with at Daisy, and invited me to come to Daisy, Gwen Federico Malone. And the person who left the poem said, hey, I wrote something last night, and it's kind of a poem, but it's not really. But I just wanted to share it before I forget or something. And so it goes like this. Poetry. Poetry puts me in the moment, which is a very difficult thing for me. All manner of intense pain flows out onto the page. It's a great effective catharsis. It's very peace-giving. I think it's beautiful. It's not something I ever thought I would do, but I like it. I like it a lot. So Mary insisted that this wasn't a good poem, that it was okay, but she didn't want to include it. We've written 3 books of poetry. She didn't want to include it. I said, oh no, Mary, let's go into it. And I recite this poem regularly and also tell the story of out of this place of insecurity or, almost an apology for having shared something beautiful can come if we just sit down and write it and share. So, John had written in the letter, like, to share our approach for writing poetry or offering healing poetry. So the first thing I scribbled down in my page of scribble notes was I am very serious about having fun with poetry. I'm very serious about that. We'll start our workshops with what we call 10 good breaths. I read once we breathe like 20,300 breaths on average a day. And it's something everybody does. So why don't we just take 10 nice, slow, deep breaths? And as Meredith mentioned, a form of grounding and kind of calming our body. If we can calm our body, we can calm our mind a bit and come into our thinking mind. So we'll do a 10 good breaths. I learned from a wonderful book of Poetry as a Tool for Recovery by Lisa DeVono how she used quotes. So I'll do that, but also share some thoughts on writing healing poetry. This isn't about being smart. Don't worry about punctuation or word choice or spelling. Don't worry about worrying the pay isn't any better. Refuse to follow directions. Making sense is not a priority. And then I'll share my 10 non-negotiable rules for writing poetry. Rule number 1 is no apologies for anything you write. Much like Mary's situation, we're so adept at apologizing and comparing ourselves in this hyper-competitive, analytical, intellectual world we live in, academic world. What do you want to call that? So no apologies for anything you write. Rule number 2, have fun! ! And I forgot the other 8 rules, so let's just go with those 2. And I have to tell you, when I first started with Daisy, I'd done this for years, right? When I first started with Daisy, I really struggled with that. Like, who's an old white guy coming in to tell folks who have suffered domestic violence, sexual violence, human trafficking, to have fun? But it's so apparent from this work that the community of poetry and being in the room of sharing poetry, where we are so much more than our stories, and we want to be so much more than our stories, and the capacity to smile and laugh and talk about our pets or friends or relationships gives us the opportunity to connect in a way that seriousness, there's enough seriousness in the world that seriousness might not offer us. So we'll read quotes out loud at that point, and I'll just pick out quotes on any manner of subject: Yogi Berra, Dalai Lama, Mother Teresa, whoever. And what I appreciate about that is people get to hear their voice in the room read something extraordinary, say something extraordinary, and we'll reflect on those for a minute and what those are. So we're kind of getting out of our narrative of who we are and what we are in the world into something different, and enjoy that. And then we'll read the affirmations from the book Poetic Medicine, Reclaiming My Creative Imagination. And so we read those out loud together, right, in unison. I am creative. I value the healing power of language. I write from my gut and heart. I trust humor and sensitivity. I honor the language of my feelings. And then we'll talk about those. I am compassionate toward myself. I give voice to the wild and joyous parts of myself. I give voice to the stormy and grieving parts of myself. All these carrying a message, right? But it struck me, Meredith, when you said like poetry, these words as being a mantra. And I think that time shared where our voices kind of fill the room together, it is a kind of music, and it is a kind of mantra that kind of leads us again into a different kind of feeling and being. John had asked to share, so those are some of the tech, and then we'll read poems and just write poems out of those. And I never go in with a theme. Tried that a while back. Actually did a workshop on forgiveness years ago. And one of the participants said, well, until I'm ready for it, forgiveness is bullshit. That's just somebody else telling me to forgive so they'll feel better about my situation. It's like, but it just spoke to me that the real theme comes out of what each person brings to the room, right? That's so why should I even try to do that? I'll share a poem. We have 3 books of poetry we've put together over the years. This is our first book, Rise Up Poetry, and a quote from one of our group members. I feel the need to cover up what others don't want to see. And this painting was by Mrs. Snow, who said the flower was in front of her mouth for all these years, so nobody could see what she was really saying. Everything was just kind of perfumed. This is our second book, and it's all original artwork and poems by our participants. So I'll read one from a young woman named Astra, who lives with her abuser, alcoholic, and who is also a veteran who served several tours in Afghanistan and Iraq. So I invite our participants to read poetry, find what you love, and steal it. T.S. Eliot said, amateurs borrow, masters steal. So this particular poem came out of Won't You Celebrate With Me, wonderful Lucille Clifton poem. So there are elements of that poem in this poem. But this is pretty much the way it came off out of which Astra wrote it in the workshop, and it's called Kintsukuroi. And Kintsukuroi is the Japanese art of repairing gold with gold or silver lacquer. Kintsukuroi. We're all made out of starshine and clay, here on this earth, but still connected to the stars, lost in our thoughts and forgetting our hearts. Here on this bridge between darkness and light, my one hand holding tight to dreams that will never come true, the other hand holding on to new life and freedom that I am terrified to embrace. Heart cracking wide open, and in that process, in that cracking, I am creating something new. Won't you celebrate with me what I have shaped into a kind of life, heartache into strength, trauma into lessons learned, so that I never repeat these cycles again, never break this heart again, these cracks repaired with gold. Here on this bridge, what did I see? What did I see in the waves below, reflected back in my tears? To be anything but myself will surely kill me, where everything else is failed. Here on this bridge, hands over my heart, my one hand holding tight to my other, I am choosing, I am releasing, I am remembering myself.
Ooh.
They say the wound is the place where the light enters you, and I am moving toward that light. I am a child of starshine and clay, stronger now, and more beautiful where I once was broken. So, Astra. To speak with my relationship with the Institute of Poetic Medicine, John, Rise Up began in 2017 with a seed grant from the Institute for Poetic Medicine. We've been doing poetry at Daisy for a couple of years before that. I can honestly say that the Institute for Poetic Medicine, the support of John, the continued support, has changed the lives of our participants, has changed Daisy in many ways. We're really looking into, we just had our first art installation. We had over 50 or 60 paintings, which our Daisy artists, some of them poets, sold to the public. We had a reading, we had veteran poets read, all manner of folks reading, and all the proceeds went to our survivors, to our clients. And on a personal note, I did complete the IPM certification last year, 3-year certification program. It was one of the most extraordinary experiences of my life. For me personally, one of the requirements in the cohort we had through COVID, the individuals in that cohort was much like this experience we're having here. We got to know each other so well and shared so much and supported each other. It was just a blessing from the start to finish. In 2018, we lost one of our, raised 2 daughters. We lost our younger daughter to substance use disorder. And when I was trying to consider what to write for a research paper, I was talking to a friend, a poet who was a mentor, and I was like trying to come up with ideas what to write. And he goes, well, you got to give me something. We got to talk. And it just leaped in my head. My topic was grief, healing poetry, and coming through. And so I spent weeks, months researching, writing. It was poetry, it was journaling, it was whatever it was. But it was through that work of becoming a practitioner of poetic medicine with IPM that just made the grief process something that's enhanced my life in ways that I could have never imagined before. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And Jim, are the books available?
Yeah, if you want to contact me, we asked for a $10 donation for Daisy. And I'll conclude with a poem. We also work with Bridgeway, which is kind of based on the Clubhouse model. Folks with behavioral issues, health issues. And this was written by a woman, I'll say AM, who has dealt with severe depression for many years. And this was written for our co-facilitator, Delia Cortez Mead. And AM's poem is Caves, which she dedicated to Delia. Caves, you walk beside me in this place, leading me through the darkness, holding my hand as we walk through the twists and turns. I can see nothing, but you walk confidently on. Then I see the light and know the way out. Walking faster, I pull at your hand, but you stop. Letting me go, you motion me onward, walking back into the caves to look for the next lost child.
Thank you, Jim. Kim had to depart, but we'll send her a good thought. And Sharon or Athena, let's get Meredith and Jim sort of on the record.
I was really struck by how the trauma that both Jim and Meredith talked about in their own lives and the lives of others that they were involved with, the traumas that they witnessed, had really been a source. It wasn't, I was reminded of someone said that both trauma and grace disrupt history. And poetry, the writing of the poetry, the listening to the poetry, is that grace wrapping around the trauma so that we can, or at least I can, understand it and feel safe about it, what's already happened. So many things that I heard and how healing it all was. I'm just going to comment too on some of the embracing uncertainty with Tonia and talking, sort of going through this either or, brave and open. And I was reminded that it's about both and. So holding it all together, and seeing the unitive quality of all that we live through and being grateful for all of it, that moves me so much. I'm finding it difficult to talk. There's so much here. It's so much I wrote down so much and I can't even read it. So, but thank you both. It was very moving.
Thank you. We feel you. We feel you.
Thank you, Sharon. Yeah.
Thank you, Sharon, for sharing. To Meredith, I have no words either. I believe that the connection with teens and at-risk teens, children, I had aspirations and inspirations of doing a curriculum for little children, because I was working at a learning center and they were so inspirational, and I thought that it would fit right in, but we have so much programming and all these social emotional skills that people want to, just let the kids have fun and write. They're developing words and developing language. Let's give them an outlet to express, so that when they're getting older, they have a way to speak the language that they need to share. So knowing that you work with at-risk youth, I feel a connection with you. Just totally, and I love the fact that you've also gleaned in the field of anthologies, because it's a time capsule to me. We don't stay 3 forever. We don't stay 40 forever. It's always a good way to read that, especially when people don't journal. Like poetry, if they can write, man, they can look back and help with that process. So I'm finding your book. I'm going to, as soon as I get some, I'm going to go to Amazon and get your first book.
Goody.
Yeah. How writing saved my life. Because that's a thing. It seems to be a theme permeating through all of even our testimonies about poetry and what it did to bring us back. Where so much of life says, stay put, stay small, stay insignificant. That's like a lifesaver coming out going, you can speak. You can talk. So I just want to delve into your work. I'm just going to dive in. But with Jim, when you nodded back to Clubhouse, to the Clubhouse model, I'm so glad to have that connection with you and Kim, because you guys are using the Clubhouse model. And what I'm taking away from what you shared was your 10 negotiables, because I find myself to be an apologizer for my writing, because my writing gets really dark and intense, but hey, it's a process. But as far as the second one, it reminds me of my late great friend, Martha. She would always say that in our sessions, have fun. I was like, what is she talking about? Like, have fun. Most of the time I'm crying. Most of the time I'm a heaving sob. Even when I facilitate, I'm crying. But that's a part of the process too. And I used to judge myself for it, especially at the very beginning. But to know that I could put that as a rule as I'm facilitating, hey, no apologies for what you're writing. I think that also freed me up too, as well as other people. So I think I'm gonna take that away with me. My question, so not so much, I'm just feeling all over the place. I've already cried at the beginning of when we started this. I'm trying not to cry now. But taking away from this is the fact that how things replicate themselves and how they amalgamate. It's a true process. It's a true lifesaver. This is not a joke. Medicine of the healing medicine of poetry is very real, and it's so accessible. The more we get out, the more people know that this is here as a resource in all of its different stages and all the different places. Lives can be saved. It's one less veteran that commits suicide, one less child that chooses to run away from home. There's one less husband that thinks before he reacts. That's one less statistic. So that's all I have to share.
Athena, what you just said though, the whole thing was gold. I just want to thank everybody for being part of this. And I hope that you who are listening, if you've been inspired, let us know. Let us hear from you. Let us hear what is moving you in your lives, about your life, about poetry and healing. We'd love to hear about that, because so much of it goes unsaid in our sort of maybe everyday lives. And I'll make this appeal: if you've been inspired, and you feel that you'd like to see this work flourish, if you go to the Poetic Medicine website, there is a donate button. It heartens me to say this. We're a nonprofit. We are able to continue this great work because of what people give. And we're in the process of creating an option for donors to directly donate stock to IPM. We are excited for the potential benefits and blessings this could have for our donors and for IPM. One of our board members and treasurer, Jeff Olsner, is getting the ball rolling by making a stock donation as soon as we have the account open. Now, I'm going to ask Jim Elsaesser if he would close our gathering with a poem.
Poetry group. For the young woman in group today who asked, how do you spell blonde? And a moment later asks, how do you spell patient? Then continues to write. I pause to consider the photos the night before, years arranged on easels, a long line of mourners, a kind of murmuring farewell. For the old boy, Johnny Jet, grounded, faded denim jacket, dog tags in one hand. As we spell the words, as we may offer, as we will say one by one to one another, laughter, life, understanding, not in what I write here, but what we have witnessed and share. Grass in the green fields, the streets, and life beneath the sun, these words spoken as one song, each word written with care, offered to one another, this quiet gift of change.
I wish those here who have made this recording together, I wish you health and well-being. And I certainly wish that to whoever is listening to this. And again, if you feel so called, let us know. Let us know. And so good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whatever it is. Thank you.